You're listening to the Red Hot Gamers Podcast at www.redhotgamers.co.uk. Okay, good evening everyone and welcome to the Red Hot Gamers Podcast Episode 2. We are back! Hey! With me tonight, we've got Bruiser again, we have got the Reverend, and we've got Red Hot Gamers member Morel. Hello everyone, welcome to the show.
Hello,
what's up?
Hello.
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday.
Happy
Yeah,
Saturday.
it's been a good day so far for me, but I've already bored some of you with football news, so I'm not going to bother with that.
Oh, thank God.
Just before we get started, just a reminder on that Evolve competition that we've got. Sign up to the mailing list at redhotgamers.co.uk, and you could stand yourself a chance of winning the game on the 31st of January, I think it was. I said I was going to draw it. 1 week left. The response has been amazing so far, I have to say. And I'm going to give a shout out to the Altis Life forum members because
That's altislife.co.uk.
That's right.
Altislife.co.uk.
The number 2.
Shameless.
Or did you say it's the number 1 now? Altis Life.
Number 1 Altis Life server in the world. Number 2 Armour 3 server in the community in the world. Yeah. So
beautiful. That's what I like to hear. Right then, guys, let's get started. Benj, what have you been playing today, Rev? What have you been playing this past week?
This past week, attempted H1Z1, hated it, got my money back.
Fantastic.
That's a good
start.
Absolutely awful. Bizarrely,
just ask me quickly what I've been playing this week.
what have you been playing?
Well, I was playing H1Z1.
Oh,
How did you feel?
And I hated it, and I got my money back.
Yeah, it was basically the gaming version of Rape, pay to play. Really not keen on that at all. And yeah, do you know, strangely, I've actually gone back through my old Humble bundles because I've got loads of keys that I've never ever used, and I spent most of today playing Grid 2. Never bothered playing it before. Had it for ages, and that was pretty awesome. Other than that, Altis Life and Armour 3 type mods.
Beautiful. That's what
Very
I like
nice.
to hear. Bruce?
let's see. Given that it's 2 p.m. our time, Central Standard, I can't really lie. I mean, been awake like 3.5 hours, pretty much.
Since the last podcast?
Yeah, since last. Let's say by, I guess, since, a week or so. Mostly, I can't lie, still been dedicated to the Skyrim grind. It's been pretty serious. Not to mention the fact that I just discovered console commands. What the fuck, man? Where have I been? Where have I been for the beauty that is console commands? Because seriously, I can't stress it enough. After blatantly doing everything in my power, I spent 2 streams on Twitch trying to discover where my lost companion had died. Tried to find his body, tried to salvage every, tutorial online, read through forums for hours. Long story short, someone was like, well, why don't you just console command him if you're on PC? And then I was like, console command? What's that? What do you do with those? Start looking into it, and it opened up an entirely new world of Skyrim for me. So, I've been trying to put the game down, and then I'm like, God damn it, I got sucked back into it, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's just segueing me into modding my current game. Is that what's about to happen? Is that what's about to happen?
And it's worth it. And you should. Get those posh mud crabs in. I've even got a mod just for posh rugs, like smart rugs. All the rugs in the game just look a bit nicer.
That's perfect. As long as it's just that mod.
That's one whole mod. Yeah, it's
so that's kind of what I've been doing, and then obviously I've been wanting to pick up a little bit of the games that I've sort of left into the I guess the back burner, and it's been a super bummer, like leaving a lot of the games that people have either followed me to watch me play, like FPS games that Vixen of course keeps stressing that I need to play more of those and kind of let Skyrim be on the back nine for just a little bit. A little bit. I need to take a break because I'm getting kind of sucked into the realm, but, shy of that. I didn't delve into H1Z1 for obvious reasons. We held off.
It's probably a good idea.
Well,
yeah, maybe, but
no,
glad to hear you guys gave it a shot. Glad to hear. Somebody had to take a bullet.
Exactly.
Fucking awful.
It was one hell of a bullet as well.
It was, yeah. Terrible.
Morel, what have you been up to, man?
Oh, God. I wasn't expecting that question. So I've been trying to think of what I've actually been playing. A lot of Prison Architect. I was going to do a series on that, but never got around to it. and a little bit of Dwarf Fortress today, but mostly I've been playing games on my phone, believe it or not.
Wow.
Mobile gaming.
I'm not like a casual gamer. Like they just confuse me. I just can't get into them. But Space
Casual
RPG
games
on
confuse
Android.
you, but Dwarf Fortress doesn't.
No, it's just like the ones that they always have to be connected to the internet, and it's like I have my phone for playing games when I'm on the bus or something.
Right.
I don't always have like Wi-Fi connection everywhere, so it's like that aspect of it drives me nuts. It's like I'm just coming back to check virtual corn. Like, couldn't you just time that on my phone? Like,
Yeah,
do I
that makes
really
sense.
have to ping off your server to make sure my virtual corn's all like done? But no, Space RPG and Minute Quest.
Fuck me. So we're talking about virtual corn and posh rugs. This is a good start.
Oh,
yeah.
Do you know, I forgot I've given CSGO a crack this week as well.
It's good.
I need to do that. I'm
love
sitting on
it.
that in Steam.
You've just reminded me of something that I've completely missed out. Something that we're going to talk about later.
Ooh.
That's remarkable. At least somebody else here is like, you know what? I should probably play Counter-Strike, and I feel the same. Come on now.
I was horrible at it, but I enjoyed it. I mean, what can you say?
Do you want to talk horrible? I'm gonna be playing it with a gamepad as I do. Oh yeah, a gamepad.
I've tried it. It doesn't work.
I don't know.
It's not better. It's not better. Counter-Strike is made to be played with a
PC.
keyboard
Oh, I
and
know.
mouse.
But trust me. That's the thing is I hear it all the time. My hand-eye coordination and aim is pretty serious with a gamepad. I promise you. It's nothing. It doesn't hold a candle to keyboard and mouse, obviously, but it's up there. When I've played on servers, I've done pretty well. I've always had a positive spread against
I'm the
people who.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
The only issue I found with sticks, I played Titanfall and I played COD on my PC with an Xbox controller, and
How'd you do?
And I do fine on them.
Yeah,
I do.
yeah.
Titanfall, I was a boss at Titanfall.
Yeah, pilot
but-
mode especially. I own that shit.
But Counter-Strike, you need a mouse. It's too
Yeah, no,
twitchy.
I would agree. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of the incremental adjustments too for like your X and Y axis that just get down so fine tuned that that's where we can't pick up on that with the actual sticks. But I've done so well. It's remarkable. In fact, I've actually thought about doing a whole series based on that, like kind of a one of those cliche satire, kind of like a satirical thing where I go on and I choose the most aggressive competitive servers with purpose just to try to play and hold a
See how you get
competition
on.
in that. Yeah, why not, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about testing yourself. Definitely, I like doing that. I tend to come out
360
quite badly.
no scope, fool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What if you're not going for montage clips? What are you doing with your life?
So Benj, Rev, sorry.
It's okay.
Shall we discuss our H1Z1
Oh,
experience?
goodness.
Man, we
Oh,
should probably
no.
get this out of the way, right?
Well, before we start, we both realise and understand that this is an early access game. Very early access. There were some elements to the game that I wasn't aware of before we started playing it. One of which was the big pay-to-win thing that came up about the airdrops that you can pay for with real money
Wait a
in-game.
What?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, hold on. There's right. This led to so much uproar that Sony Online Entertainment said that you could get a no questions asked refund on the game if you felt that you had been, misled.
And a lot of people did.
And a lot of people did.
No,
Everyone
it would
I know
seem-
did. I only know
But
one
there's a lot.
person still playing it.
There is some comments that I'd like to just add about the airdrops, though, that doesn't make the problems that people are having too much of an issue for me, because so you can call in airdrops for about £5 each, aren't they? Something like that.
4 or 5.
Yeah. And then a plane spawns in. Right, okay, so the server has to have, I think they're changing it to a minimum of 100 people on the server before you can call in an airdrop, right? Then a very slow-moving plane comes in and drops an airdrop at a random point on the map. And, it's very loud, it's very big, there's smoke coming off the crate, and when it hits the ground, it also spawns some zombies around it. So,
What?
there's got to be another 99 people on that server before you can spawn it. So basically, it's just a gift for someone else, because the chances of you actually getting that box
So
are
you've got
crazy.
99 problems and it's all of the players.
Yes.
Basically.
what you're saying.
Unless you
Yeah,
filled
more or
a
less.
server of 99 of your friends, I suppose, which is going to be quite difficult to do.
Yeah, and even
Of
then,
the people still playing H1Z1, that's probably the people that's left in the whole of the community now.
It's
well,
the
that and
thing
those
that's
who are
confused me
endorsing it, you know.
on Twitch. It's still getting very high on the most played game.
That's kind of, but that's what I'm getting at. Is if you think about it, remember that kind of ties back into what we were discussing. I had that whole side rant on episode 1, just detailing the fact that it has to do clearly with somebody wanting to privately endorse the product and consistently playing it as if it's something that is playable. But clearly, the community knows otherwise. You guys tried it firsthand, So I don't know.
The first issue that we had is that the login wouldn't work.
Yeah, that was.
I remember seeing that.
It's ridiculous.
That's
Absolutely ridiculous.
That was ridiculously broken. So the first 2 hours, I think people were just trying to get on.
Yeah,
I was watching PSI Syndicate stream, and he was just going through Counter-Strike Go boxes and all sorts of stuff. He just couldn't physically get onto the game. Then when they fixed that, getting into a game, they'd not got enough servers.
Yeah, you had to wait like 2 or 3 hours in some cases to get in a queue to get on the server.
I think it was like one fifth. There was only like 1/5 of the slots for the people that paid for the game, or something crazy like that. So you couldn't even physically get into a game. And then people started. Some of the streamers, they've got their own servers though, their own dedicated servers. From what I can make out.
That almost reminds me, like, kind of looking at that whole concept of them and the and taking taking demand for a product that they didn't nearly have. They didn't expect a response to it, so it almost reminded me. That, but also it just made me think of the whole fiasco now with this is kind of a side note with the Majora's Mask 3DS in the United States and the release for that. How Best Buy had all these pre-orders, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we've got you. We'll take care of it. It's going to be a done deal." And then they sold more units in pre-orders than they even had readily available. So now it put them in a position where they're issuing a $50 gift card to every individual who did the pre-order and had it canceled, as if that's going to somehow make it better that you promised a product that wasn't even, there. So it's kind of.
I think it highlights like people's sort of hunger for DayZ style sandbox survival games, because I'm a sucker for them. Every time I get hyped, and then it's usually shit. There's one come out this week, a couple of days ago, yesterday I think. Stranded Deep. Have you seen that?
No, but you're making me want to look at like some sort of metaphorical watch around my wrist that's constantly ticking. That I'm like, oh yeah, another zombie game. Oh yeah, another zombie game.
Well, this is like it's a little bit like The Forest. It's but you're on like a nice little island. You've got all the crafting elements. You've got things like sharks. You can make rafts and all kinds of stuff. And I was going to get this, but the Wilco, the guy that owns altislife.co.uk, there we go, plug again. I asked him. He bought it, and he said he played it for 45 minutes, accomplished everything that was possible within the game's mechanics within that 45 minutes, and he's like, I'm just going to leave it now for a few months, see what happens. So I'm holding off. It's only like $10.99, and it looks awesome. It's like under a gig, the actual file size, but it's beautiful, man. It looks really nice. Runs well.
Whereas with H1Z1, once you actually got into the game, there really wasn't anything to do.
Didn't even look good, man.
No,
I'm like, I don't mind that. If a game's good enough,
a lot of people were slating it before it had actually been released. A lot of people were slating it, saying that it looked crap. And then there was a lot of white knights saying, well, hold on, the footage that we've seen so far was like from very early builds and whatever. I'm sure it'd be a lot better than that when it's actually out. And then it's like, no, it looks terrible.
That's what all of every forum white knight has to say, though. Oh no, what we saw was pre-alpha footage. That was pre-alpha.
And I agree with you,
come on, dude.
Rev. What you're saying about DayZ, it does look 10 times better.
And that's the thing. I always end up going back to it.
And DayZ has just surpassed 3 million units sold.
Really?
Which isn't bad.
That's remarkable.
For a game. But they've also come out and said that they're aiming for the first half of 2016 to actually release.
which
considering how long this thing's been in development for in the first place,
that's curious.
It's
and yet the fact that the pay to win concept, is that something that you solely think during this early access they're testing as an opinion-aided poll, kind of? I'm
sure they'll modify it if.
Well, the thing is, the game's meant to be free, from what I've heard. So
yes. Sorry, this is the other thing.
You're paying to be a fucking
free
beta
to
tester.
plays.
Yeah.
Well, again, but most free to plays, I assume that in the future, if that's true, even though you're right, Rev, you make a good point. If you're paying to be a beta tester, that's a really crazy concept. But then that ties right back into all of, you remember my top 3 games of 2014 for me were all games that essentially I paid $60 American retail to be a beta tester for games that were fully functional. You know what I mean? So it goes both ways. At least with H1Z1, they warned you guys. You guys were ready to expect a mediocre product to some degree. I mean, to some degree.
To some degree.
Yeah.
There was just nothing there.
But in all fairness, I mean, we've all slated DayZ at one time or another. But honestly, the product that they released, my issue with it is how slowly they're developing it. Because in terms of actual playability and gameplay and looks, it's not even in this, like H1Z1's not even in the same league, and this is like a year ago. You know, it's just a slow development time. That's my issue with it. Because to be honest, H1Z1, as far as I'm concerned, it's just another. It's got to flop. I don't see people playing that in 6 months.
Let's as well, having the name Sony behind it, I was expecting a lot more.
I know, and that was my issue as well. Massively disappointed.
I mean, but then that's almost like if you consider, I mean, when you go from things like how games are now taking a lot of inspiration from just anything theatrical, for example, like movies and video games are almost synonymous with each other. Look at most of what Sony's entertainment studios have done, though, with films in the last 5 years. There hasn't been a lot of success there. I mean, if we're talking like major blockbusters, there really haven't been. I mean, and so when you look at their games, most games that they choose to pick up and endorse prior to something like H1Z1, I mean, I can't really think of anything that comes to mind that was just stellar. I think Sony just screams, we have money, but doesn't really have anything to show for it. Does that make sense? I guess that's kind of what I think. But I didn't have high expectations, so I can't say I'm really let down. But I can also say that it was something I was interested in just because it seemed like there was a big community or a following who was prepared to just throw money at screen and commit to playing a game they didn't necessarily know enough about. But
I think all of the commotion with all these zombie survival games is that so many people fell in love with DayZ, but they want a game that is what DayZ is promising to be, if that makes sense, but they want it now. Yeah. So whenever anyone comes up and they say, look, we've got a great game like this, it's going to be awesome, then everyone just jumps on it straight away, just in case it is.
They're riding on the back of it, and also they'll throw some new little quirk into the mix that will be like, oh, I wish DayZ had that. But do you know, in terms of sort of gameplay,
DayZ is still the best out there.
It is for sure, 100%. And I think I know more people that have been converted to PC from consoles because of DayZ than pretty much any other game I could mention. Genuinely, you know, I've got a lot of friends who have gone over to PC that had no interest previously. And you know, they've learnt their way around. They were console gamers for life, and then a game like DayZ comes out, and I don't see that ever really working on a console in the same way.
No.
I don't think it goes that way.
This backwards. I think when you look at the whole survival crafting genre, it's hard to implement the challenge, and zombies are just a really easy cop-out to throw in there, and now there's a reason for you to try and survive, because there's zombies everywhere. There's no point to the zombies. It's just something to get people's attention. I think we need to be focusing more on the bare bones of the survival horror genre.
That's true, but I think other than there was about a month where it took about 30 hits to take a zombie down. Zombies and DayZ, it's never been the zombies that were the threat. Oh yeah, it's
other.
It's all about the humans.
But it's the other players. I mean, you can take out a horde of zombies. Not that you'll ever get that much at the moment. I don't think the engine will handle it, but that's a side issue. But you see a group of survivors and you're instantly shitting your pants. And there's no other game that you feel that same tension. Genuinely, you know, just seeing another person and instantly the adrenaline's pumping and you're in fight mode.
Right.
And you know, I think that's probably what makes that game for me. It's just genuine. It's genuine sort of. It feels real. As you probably would.
I mean that and it's like the I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Blade. It's kind of like it's like the, you know, similar to what Mirel was saying. It's the nourishment that I think we all seek as people who want a survival game. It's pretty generic and simple to just say, oh yeah, here's why you need to survive, because zombies.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really just everyone's go-to. So Rev said it earlier, is that they're kind of coasting off of the coattails of DayZ and wanting to capitalize on what seems to be yet another, couple of years where everybody's really hyped on the whole genre as a whole. But it's just, I think it's sort of playing itself out, and it's coming to fruition. It's showing. Numbers don't lie. Granted, there are sales, but what do sales really project? People can still be upset. I mean, Halo sold crazy numbers, and Microsoft still wants to pretend like it's A-OK, that their next update is being considered a beta, for Christ's sake. I mean, that's a side thing, but still, you see what I'm getting at? I mean, you have a final product, and they're saying, well, hey, our next update for this game, courteously provided to you by 343 Industries, is actually going to be a beta. So thanks for buying our game. Enjoy the beta of the game you already bought. Like, what?
Yeah, thanks for the money.
Yeah, so the same type of deal. So I completely understand. It goes both ways.
The thing is, though, it's exciting when you discover a game that is good that no one else is playing. And I think we've said this before, like the whole green light thing on Steam. I think it's awesome. It's great. It's 7 Days to Die for me is a massive one. Yeah. Where it just feels awesome that you're playing something that you can see that it's gonna be good. Space Engineers is the same. I haven't played it in a while, and I know they keep updating it, and there's a ton of features in there. But I had a few months where I just loved the heck out of that game, and it's the fact that it's not out yet properly and it's not finished. You just feel like, well, this is cool. You're actually part of something, and I think the big issue is when they don't listen to the community. And that's where people get frustrated, because people are playing these games and they want the input, they want the feedback to say, well, it'd be nice if they had this, it'd be nice if you included that. And when they're not getting the things that they feel that should be in the game, that's when you start having problems. Or if it takes so long, that's the other issue, I think.
The devs need to, keep track of what their idea of the game should be, but they should definitely, compromise and listen to what the customers are saying.
You just get pretty caught up in the supply and demand, and it's a vicious cycle. I mean, that's what kind of like what we were mentioning. I mean, I won't lie, like I was pretty excited. You had mentioned the whole pay to win concept, and then I thought, well, with this whole news of everybody having a huge freak out, it's like the internet broke the other day when people were talking about the announcement behind ESO becoming free to play. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, wait a minute, but if this is truly free to play, are you certain that we're not going to see? I mean, I read all the fine print, but is that truly all of the fine print, if you will, that they're saying, well, hey, by the way, here's the difference between those who are choosing to continue to pay and those who are playing free? Yeah. Are we going to see any more of that in the future, where possibly DayZ or not DayZ, but rather H1Z1 could end up being what Elder Scrolls Online is, where they're like, well, there are advantages to paying to play or paying to win, but that's what my concern is with, for example, Elder Scrolls Online. I'm worried that once I get a great game and I want to sink my teeth into it because it didn't have a lot of success of me wanting to be like, hey, I'm going to go out and pay for this to enjoy it, I'm worried that if I get it and put some time into it, that it's not going to be the same experience that, say, someone over here, Joe Schmo, is paying X amount of money to just do better substantially. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah,
so.
But it isn't. I can tell you that now. It's something to seriously be worried about, because if the free to play version, the paid version rather, if you could play ESO Plus, I think it's going to be called, you get better progression and everything. So you're at a disadvantage straight away if you're not going to pay a monthly subscription to the game, even though it is free to play.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, because video games are incredibly expensive to produce and incredibly expensive to run large scale. So if you're going to be a free-to-play gamer, you have to accept that there's people who are lazy and going to give the people the money they want to do a little bit better.
And you see that especially in mobile games. I mean, for Christ's sake. The millions that they make on Candy Crush and whatever, people buying
I've got a friend who spent like $300 in actual currency for Candy Crush, and that's the thing ridiculous. Is that I understand that to each their own, and you've got a sad addiction to clearly wanting to play something that is to me is nonsensical, but it's, again, that's all to each their own. That's your opinion. You're entitled to it. Play the games you want. If you enjoy it and you value it and that's your money, do what you will with it. But by all means. But again, Blade, you mentioning the fact that I understand the concept of, okay, there is going to be some supremacy or hierarchy developed to those who are paying to enjoy the game. But to me, I'm really waiting for a title to sort of blend the two and have them be synonymous with each other. The only benefit that should come with playing should be something like how Twitch offers Turbo. It should be based on you're not seeing ads, or you can resume play from where you previously were. Things like that. Things that are quirky but not going to break the fucking game. I hate to put it that way, but you're gonna terrorize an experience of a free player solely because maybe they don't have the same exposure, but because this person's willing to pay and just dive right in, they automatically have an advantage. I understand that, because you're right. I mean, Muriel said it best. If it does cost anything, you are going to have to pay the cost to, I hate to say it, but be the boss. You're going to have to. And if you want to invest that money, you're going to have a better experience, because naturally it makes the world go round. But it's kind of an unfortunate thing, because it still makes me feel like, well, if I want to get so invested in this and I don't necessarily know if I'm going to enjoy it, it frightens me to think about the concept of paying to enjoy the game that I'm hoping is going to work the way I would like it to. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the problem. Yeah, because with Elder Scrolls Online, I could have got involved in that a long time ago if I wanted to, but I don't want to pay the subscription. So to make it free to play, I'll probably give it a go, but then I'm going to get dicked on so much compared to the dudes who are still playing that I'm going to stop playing it anyway.
Yep, that's what I'm worried about.
So what's the point?
Well, there's the other side of things as well. I mean, I would happily, like DayZ, for example, I would happily drop another 20, 30 quid if it was a new map. Map, new weapons. DLC, totally cool with that. It's pay to win, I think, specifically that bothers me.
Right, yes.
And there's also subscription as well. I mean, World of Warcraft, Elder Scrolls Online, I know they're changing and all that stuff, right? But the fact that you had to pay monthly just to play, like, I don't want to feel like I'm tied to having to do that. Skyrim, I bought that game 3-4 times now on various platforms and things, and happily I would do it, because the amount of gameplay and the size of it, it's worth it, man. It's amazing, and that doesn't bother me at all. But the pay to win thing, that really, I think also the fact they didn't say. That was the thing with H1Z1. They had not stated that, and I think people were like, "Well, fuck you."
Well, they did state that there would be purchasable crates, but I think they said that there wouldn't be like guns and ammunition and stuff in them.
From my
understanding, I think that was the
clothes
issue.
And shit you got out of there anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it was stuff that didn't really make a great deal of difference.
Well, that's the thing, is that it's similar to kind of what Rev was mentioning about there always being just that sort of you get the wool over our eyes type of concept, and we all just look like a bunch of just idiots, and I guess what you would call sheep or mainstreamers that just kind of go with the flow of it. I mean, EDO Plus, where the hell is the pricing? I mean, if we're talking about a conceptual agreement to just say, well, we're going to pay for this, but it's not allegedly some sort of subscription base like it was prior to, what exactly are we paying for if the benefits are worth the money?
I don't know what the prices are. I don't think they've actually said it yet. But
right.
For Plus, for people who've got subscriptions, because this is in March, I think it is, March 17th.
Yep.
It's going free to play. People who've got subscriptions that run over that time is being converted into the Plus membership for them. So I'm assuming just from that it's going to equal the same as, if they've got 2 months left on their subscription, it'll get converted to 2 months of Plus time. It's probably going to end up being about the same price as a subscription to the bloody game in the first place.
Well, then amongst the four of us here, is there anyone who would genuinely think this game is going to see any sort of success going free to play?
No, I will give it a shot. Give it a shot. But as soon as it looks as though I'm at a disadvantage, which I'm going to be because it's progression that you're buying for.
Are you kidding me? It's like you're going to be jumping into WoW this late in the game, and you're hitting people that have got 5-6 characters already at level 100. They hit the new cap, and I'm just like, what the hell's the point? I don't
mind people paying for things. Microtransactions in games isn't a problem if it's stuff that doesn't affect the game as such. If it's a different attire or a cool horse or something that you can ride on, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Go nuts. Yeah, go nuts. I agree.
When people are paying to get an actual advantage over everyone else, then it's not right. It's not how games should be played.
The other side of things as well, which is when you've got gaming communities where you'll almost pay to be a member, and I don't mind that if you're supporting someone's got a dedicated server that they're running super well. They're they've got systems in place to stop DDoS attacks, and it's a well-run community, I'll happily pay to play on their server and be part of it. When it's when it's a voluntary donation, you don't necessarily have to, but normally you've got like VIP systems and things like that, and that I'm okay with. It's just I don't like feeling like you have to pay to
do any good of it
or to win. Yeah, it's just crazy, man.
It is, because games should be based on your skill, and I play a lot of games that I'm not particularly skilled at, but I enjoy them anyway, and that's the idea. You know what I mean? And then other games I'm an absolute boss at that I probably don't even enjoy that much. I just play it because I like beating people.
Well, yeah. I mean, that makes me. It kind of makes me wonder, though, like with what Rev was saying and the whole general understanding earlier, when we were talking about the concept of being a little bit different there, and knowing what you're paying for, and if it's something that you're willing to do, that makes sense. But here's the question: is do you think a lot of the issues we're seeing with what seems to be blatant neglect? I mean, again, we mentioned the whole King's DLC for Assassin's Creed Unity was also utterly broken and did nothing to contribute to fixing the game in any way, shape, or form. Does it make you wonder that because Steam has become such, and dare I say, a shit pot of unfinished game type of community? I mean, granted, I love all the open development, and it gives a lot of the smaller indie game developers a lot of free reign to produce a product that is interesting and is worth a damn, but the funding is not quite there. Do you feel like that's why we're seeing things like physical media completely die out? Is that why the digital age is kind of taking over? For example, we mentioned prior to getting this going is the whole Dying Light fiasco of, well, what, physical copies are delayed, but digital is just ready to go? I mean, is that why maybe they're not looking to manufacturers to produce something because they're like, well, why spend more money when we know it'll sell digital?
I think there's a couple of factors involved in that. I mean, firstly, the clutter. If you've got boxes and boxes of games, as I have back catalogues of stuff on old consoles and everything that I'll never touch again, that's just taking up space that I haven't got the heart to get rid of. And the other side of things is, now we've got high-speed broadband. These things are possible.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right.
And the speed at which they run. If you're running from a disk, the data transfer rates, you're limited to a certain level of performance. When you've got something on an SSD, for an example, it's going to be running better.
Yep.
SSDs for the win.
Yeah.
Cost me a lot of problems, but now
in all fairness, where's it going to go? Because obviously, as technology develops, games are getting better. I mean, I was thinking earlier. Obviously, the point we're going to be coming to with games that we used to love back in the day. I probably wouldn't play any of my favorite games ever again.
Same here, and I've done it.
And so I was wondering, are we at the point where like this is the gaming heyday? Because a lot of people would argue that we've had it. Oh yeah, 90s was the best games. I don't agree at all. I think we're actually, as technology progresses, games are getting better.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Of course. Yeah. But I mean, getting back to the whole box situation, I preferred it back in the old days when PC games came in a big cardboard box. Now,
oh my God!
When they switched them to DVD cases, I was like, I just felt as though I wasn't getting my money's worth out of it. If you know what I mean? Because you used to get a nice big box, you used to get your little booklets inside, maybe a fold-out map and stuff. It was lovely. But I mean, you go back 10 years, looking at music, for example. Who didn't have one of those stupidly big like stacks, like holder things in the bedroom with all the CDs in it? Exactly. And who's got one nowadays? Anyone?
Yeah,
here?
nobody.
Nobody.
Listen, what's the age difference here? Because I think I'm going to be arguing a completely separate decade than you guys.
I'm 36, so...
Okay.
Yep, and I'm 25.
Okay.
And I'm 29, so...
Okay, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Okay.
No.
Because
how
old are
you, Will?
24.
Okay, yeah, so he's right there with me. Yep.
He is in Canada, though, which are about 80 years behind the rest of the world. But
Well, more or less.
I'll have you know, in the last 10 years, we've managed to bring ourselves up to 40 years behind the curve.
See, there you go. That's not that
congratulations.
bad. That's only 4 years. That's definitely better than...
Is that the Justin Bieber tax money that you've got coming in that's done that? Is it?
No, it's all the Bryan Adams money. Son of a bitch.
In Canada, Steam's actually run by steam-powered machines. So
there you go. So it's a little.
Steam just integrated Canadian dollar.
That's it. Maybe Valve are a Canadian company. That's where their origins are. Obviously, that's where they got the name.
Totally.
This is another mystery solved, kids.
There we go.
Well,
World exclusive.
With more of like, I guess the point I was really looking at, like, and that's not to denounce any of what you or Rev had actually said. It was just kind of the fact that I guess the obvious standpoints are there that I would agree 100%. Like Rev's absolutely right. Like, yeah, space constraints, things of that nature. That's all valid points. But I guess I was more kind of focusing on the comment of, well, if these indie game developers, let's say they had a solid revenue stream from a massive publisher, i.e. Sony, and the money's coming in and you know they've got your back and they're going to make sure everybody's paid and happy. And if there aren't any physical copies going out, as there haven't been for probably the last 5 years, no one's really been, massive on the production of physical hardware, that where's the extra money going? I mean, there obviously haven't been advertisements that have been run of any kind that are going to be a costly ad affair. And if the game's not quite where it needs to be, where's more money that could have been used for development if it's not going into producing physical copies? Because naturally, that is the least cost-effective way to go about producing a game these days.
Yes.
So I guess that's kind of my comment was more of a way to invoke kind of a thought of, well, you know what? You're right. If you're not producing a physical game, there is so much money. I cannot even begin to express the amount of money that is saved in production costs.
I think the production costs, it's just because you're speaking specifically to indie games. We're talking about 4 or 5 amateurs that threw something up on Kickstarter, got $125,000, ran to town with this check, and got in over their heads. We talk about games like H1Z1 that tons of funding, great minds, huge company, all the advantages. They put out something bad. We're like, oh, that's disappointing. We should.
If that was made by 4 people in their basement, we'd be saying how great a game it was.
Right, absolutely.
Well, I don't know whether I'd go that far actually thinking about it, but
But we're arguing the differences between like pixel piracy. Pixel piracy was doing great. The lead designer got really burnt out because he was working these 20-hour days, gave it to someone else to finish, and now they're all like, oh, what's going on? It's because it's 3 guys and one of them got burnt out.
Yeah.
So I think when you're comparing indie games, we still need to remember that while some of them are professional, a lot of them are probably amateurs like us. Because I know Blade owns at least 1 copy of RPG Maker. And I tried to learn Java for like a week. So...
For like a week. I tried for like 6 months, and it's Minecraft's
a prime example. I think there's other factors like Notch and his partner. They sold Minecraft to Microsoft, who now own it for a lot of money. But that guy actually he cited his reasons as being
$2.1 billion.
The flaming he was getting online, he just couldn't deal with it. That was one of the biggest things. And the guy, I don't think he ever intended it to be as big as it is.
Well, that's the thing, because this bloke was a programmer. This is what he was saying about that one. He's a programmer. He wasn't meant to be the head of some huge company in the spotlight all the time. He was just a coder at the end of the day who had an idea. It's all been thrust upon him, and it was too much.
And to be fair, that spawned, arguably, even games like Minecraft, that's had a bit of play in games like DayZ. Creating, surviving.
Especially 7 Days.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. I love that game.
You think about it's similar with the guy that did Flappy Bird. Are you kidding me? That guy crumbled under the pressure in 60 days.
Yeah.
In 60 days, man, the guy could not handle that. Let me just say this. I'm going to put this out there, and this is objectively speaking here. Whatever he could have done, if we could go ahead and hit that rewind on time, give me your workload, bud. I can handle getting $50,000 a day for 2 months. I can handle that. I can handle the responsibility. $50,000 a day in ad revenue. I'll take that for 2 months. Let me just have that, and I'd be set.
Nintendo breathing down his neck, though.
He did. No, there was a lot of that. I won't lie. Obviously, there was a lot of the lawyerings in the background going on, and I believe there was a cease and desist or two, maybe. But all of that aside, he was still paid. That doesn't change that. He was still paid, and he did have a settlement agreement with them upon termination. But you know what I mean? I see what you're saying. Is that you look at the compromises that are made by like a smaller development team, and then my comparisons are more just like a thought along the lines of, well, if physical media, for example, is going to be a dying breed now with things like games, Obviously the Xbox One tried to incorporate that. It didn't go well. And I think that whole presentation at E3 2 years ago was a last minute adjustment. I swear to God, I still have this theory that the Xbox One's initial model did not have a disc tray. I'm willing to bet everything on it that probably 3 months prior to that announcement, they had one ready. They had to completely readjust the prototype that they used because so many people were not fond of the concept. And in my mind, I was like, every game I have bought now has been digital.
Yeah.
Has been
I can't
digital.
remember the last physical copy of the game I bought.
And that's what I'm getting at, is that I think something with like Dying Light, and I hear that, and that's news to me, but you can also understand why somebody hearing, oh, well, what? That's weird. Physical copies are delayed. Then in my mind, I was like, why do I care?
Exactly. It doesn't really make any difference. But it's only been delayed. I didn't put this on the thing, but it's only been delayed outside of America. Okay. America is still getting their physical copies, so you can still go and buy one if you want.
We're just America. That's, I guess, why we need to have it. That instant gratification. Got to walk in there and see it on a shelf, and that's the only way we're going to buy it.
But
one thing to remember, though, is convenience as well with Steam. Why would I go to the pizza shop if they're going to deliver the pizza to me for free?
Yeah,
I don't remember the last video game I bought wearing pants.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, we'll get it this way, right?
You got a point.
Every year when FIFA's released, they have a midnight launch in this country, right? Everyone goes to the shops and they queue up for fucking ages to get their copy of FIFA. Now on Twitter, like EA and whatever are tweeting out, like, send us pictures of you in the queue wherever you are and whatever. I sent them a picture of me sat in my dressing gown, waiting for midnight to come so that I can just click on play. You know, why would you? There's no need to do it anymore.
Again, it's down to technology changing, though. I mean, obviously, people's nans and mums, they're still going to try and buy a physical copy for their kids. But, in all fairness, I think it will get to the point where physical copies, they just won't exist. Everyone now...
Codes.
Just buy gift cards or codes.
The gift card with a code on. I mean, and do that. And obviously, now most people have high-speed broadband. There's not that many people still struggling on dial-up, or it's getting less and less.
You'd be surprised in the States, though. You guys over there, anywhere in European countries, you guys are... It's like a dime a dozen here. They actually say that only 20% of the United States actually has higher than 10 megabyte download speeds on average. So it's because the definition, with respect, it's because of the complex definitions of how the United States, we just do everything differently, for Christ's sake, with things like currency and forms of measurement, etc. We're douchebags. So here's the thing, is that with that exact concept in mind, you look at how things like games and what have you are released, it's comparable, because everything that we're looking to do in the future, as far as what's to come, you kind of mentioned, Rev, saying, oh yeah, the elderly or the generations past are going to go out and physically buy a game versus having a code and then just redeeming it. The internet capabilities here in the States are still... They're not as superb as they are in other places around the world, because what United States definition of broadband is anything faster than 4 megabyte download speed. It's similar to our cellular technology, where we call it LTE. It only recently became acknowledged as LTE by the actual, I don't know what they're called, like it's the World Wireless Communications. They had to establish it according to a certain technology speed in order to be LTE, right? So broadband in the States is not broadband everywhere else. So our internet here is really not that great. So downloading a game is kind of a struggle for the average consumer in the United States. And that's why I think, it's a big deal here, mentioning what you said about it's not delayed in the States. I wonder if that has anything to do with it, because the internet is not that great. It really isn't. But
there was a village in this country, and obviously it's going to be magnified tenfold in America because you're huge. But there was a village in this country that wanted, fiber optic. I think that was after, and the companies were saying, no, it's not. There's only like 50 if you live there. It's not worth us doing it. So they actually took it upon themselves. They raised a bit of cash and they did a lot of the work themselves as well. They dug all the holes up and whatever needed, and just rang them back up and said, right, you just need to come and lay the cable in now. and they did it.
That's remarkable.
But I mean, but that's like one village over here. You've probably got 10,000 of them for every one over here.
Oh, no. I mean, definitely. Trust me, the demand's there. The problem is, it's what it costs here in the States to get broadband. I mean, if we're talking Verizon Fios, which is like the one that all the internet jokes stems from. Verizon Fios is basically like Gotternet. If you have Fios, you may as well have that in your fucking bio, because people are going to want to know how much you're paying a month, because Verizon Fios is insane. And they're actually working on their gigabit network, not to mention Google Fiber is starting to hit the States and a lot of major cities. I actually petitioned for that to be in Dallas. It's actually in Austin, Texas, which is about 4 hours south of us. But if Google Fiber... Yeah, I know, right? My God, are you kidding me? But Google Fiber, though, we're talking gigabit speeds. When that actually hits in the United States, if even, let's say, even 200 major cities in the United States get gigabit internet, it's over. The digital downloads, that's not even going to be a question. Every game library in America is going to increase tenfold. In fact, people can start hosting servers, for Christ's sake, for P2P sharing, because the speed will be available. But in other parts of the world, like in the UK, I mean, I've met friends who, comparably, their internet speed's 5 times mine, and they're probably paying a fraction of what I pay for the bullshit internet that I have. You know, so that's a whole thing, but it's you'd be surprised, and I think that's reflected in what the country's restraints are on internet. I really do.
Now, is there a thing about Google that if you live within a certain radius of their headquarters, you get free internet for life?
That's correct. Yes,
I mean that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, in Mountain View, California. Google? Well, I mean, I kind of do too, in a roundabout way. Yeah, in a roundabout way, I definitely do.
On Google.
Well, there you go. I mean,
you have to look at it though. It's this company that has unlimited resources. Like, it's
more or
Google.
less.
You sound like Vince McMahon.
No, they just throw money at things. They're just like, hey, a car that drives itself.
Let's do it.
Blank check. Go to town. Hey, everyone else is doing the smartphone thing. Here's a blank check. Make a smartphone. Like,
oh look, let's put it in your glasses.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey,
I mean,
what if we just gave everyone crazy internet speeds? Yeah.
Yep. I mean,
what are we going to charge?
But that's what's best for their business.
I would agree. It's going to grow it, and that's going to help. I mean, comparably to software, that's kind of the same deal. I mean, it is, Rev was saying, and I kind of jumped in there, but it is what's best for their business, and that's similar to what a major company like Microsoft is doing, and you're seeing them branch out. It's game developers are trying to do the same thing. I mean, everybody's wanting to make what they do synonymous with other things that trend in pop culture. I mean, it can't just be about a video game. That video game needs to have remnants of major films, of major comic books, of popular music. Like, it has to hit everywhere in order for the game to do well, or whatever it is to do well. It really does. It has to hit on a lot of points.
We talked last week quite a lot about GTA 5 and its delay and what we thought about that. Now it's available for pre-order now on Steam, and they've actually got some pretty decent offers for if you pre-order it, which is fair enough. Normally, pre-ordering in a digital download world is normally not worth the fucking time it takes to post it.
Yeah,
but I mean, if you pre-order it now, you get 1 million in-game cash split between the offline and online, which is pretty good as well. And if you do it before 1st of February, then you get an extra 300 grand to spend online as well. And as an apology for the delay, you can pick between, they've got about a dozen Rockstar games, which all did pretty decent, that you can have for free, one of them.
Yeah,
which
it's not bad. I mean
it's good that they made an effort, and I mean, I think that's what's cool with Rockstar is they do actually get their audience, and it's like, you know, we screwed up, so here you go. If you support us, we'll give you something back.
Well, that's right, and you only need to put a 15% discount on that as well, and you can download the free game straight away. So you can get yourself a game that's going to, you know, you can play for the next month or so until GTA 5 drops. Which I think
people people are still kind of that's admirable, but people are still kind of irked. And I was reading that Kotaku had a whole post about, okay, this is all great, this is fine and dandy. I mean, because they did offer the same thing to console players, the whole $1 million cash incentive and what have you. But the concept of a free game is great. I mean, but then you look at it, and before everybody's running to their aid to be like, oh, this is really honorable of you. I mean, what is a title that's 5 years old really technically worth? Is the first question. But then I guess the second thing is that it's still, right. I mean, it's just nice, and I understand that, because you're right. If it's a game,
Daisy probably before it's released.
Yeah, if they're willing to play it, then great. I guess you've got a game added to your library. But for the pre-order, I guess my concern is that, you mentioned, I'm wondering if it's non-refundable, is that something that people should be concerned about because they're diving in head first to something that has already been delayed now twice? Or
it is non-refundable, but again, it's only 15%. And
True.
it is going to be coming, and when it does come, we do know it's going to be awesome. So it's pretty safe money.
Because we've already played it over a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think people are still worried about the heist, like Rev was saying last week, is that, it's kind of like the heist thing. I mean, is this going to be there forever? Kind of, I hate to reference any sort of pop culture or music, but God forbid, a lot of the underground hip hop heads talk about how, like, for example, Dr. Dre's album Detox is just not coming out ever. That's an album that's been referenced for 10, 15 years, for Christ's sake.
Well,
and
look at Chinese democracy.
Right.
Guns N' Roses.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yes. And that's exactly what I'm kind of looking at. Is it worries me that is this with gaming, is this going to be a thing with the community? Because same with, again, I talked about Halo and went on a side rant last week, and they're promising all sorts of additional ideas, yet they're working on something that isn't quite yet finished. They're like, oh, well, to make up for that, we're going to get this other game that we didn't even plan to produce out for you as well. So with Rockstar, what do you think the holdup is with the heist now that it's coming to PC? I mean, is there any theory on what could be the issue?
No idea.
I mean, they're redeveloping a game, and like Rev was mentioning, why is it that they're not just putting it out on PC if it's initially considered porting it to console? It's really unusual the way they go about doing it. I get that they have a master plan. They are a huge AAA producing company that has the funding just through the roof, and kudos to them for being able to even put out a game as great as a GTA 5, but still, it makes me wonder. I'm like, heists were kind of a big deal, and it seems like anyone who still plays that game was looking forward to it. I can't imagine what the issue is.
Bigger question: where the heck is Red Dead Redemption, man? I'd buy that tomorrow on PC.
Well, we did have this conversation last time.
We did, but that's true.
But yes, I would. I would, and I
at?
still would. I don't care how old that game is. It is amazing. But mentioning the free game that they're going to give away if you pre-order it, Evolve are doing the same thing. I don't know if you've seen it or not. But this one really fucking confused me. If you pre-order Evolve, you get a free copy of Left 4 Dead.
Left 4 Dead?
Yeah, I don't think it was even Left 4 Dead 2. I think it was Left 4 Dead 1. And it's like, anyone who's interested in Evolve, is probably going to also own Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. And Left 4 Dead 1's ancient. There's still people playing Left 4 Dead 2.
Yeah, but the original?
I'm sure it was the original. I might be wrong on that. But
I mean, even if it's Left 4 Dead 2. Yeah, let's just say, let's say it is, for the sake of for the argument. What if it is Left 4 Dead, the original title? I feel like Steam probably has it on sale right now for negative money. They're going to give you money to take the title.
The amount of times that is, it's Left 4 Dead 1. The amount of times that Left 4 Dead 2 has been on a Steam sale for like $2 or $3, for Christ's sake. Left 4 Dead 1, like you say, they're going to be paying you to download it.
Well, that's what I mean. That goes right into the point I made a minute ago, talking about the value. I understand it is personal and it's based on sentimental value to how you're going to play it and what you value as your time versus dollar spent. But that's just like what I said last week about the Batman bundle that went on sale around Christmas time, where it had every Rocksteady game and it was $10. We understand how it's a deal. People see it because you're getting a lot for their money, but people don't also see the fact that what's a digital copy worth after it's been released on a digital store? I mean, you're putting out these games that are several years old, and you're saying, well, hey, this is technically free, but you're also saying to the consumer, like, buy more of our stuff because what we're including free is a big deal. And that to me is I think kind of a shiesty tactic, but understandably so. In Rockstar's defense, they haven't put out a lot of shitty games, so I can't really say that's I'm not going against the grain there. They're a great development team, so I mean they know what they're doing. It's just I have to have something to complain about, and even Vixen says that about me all the time. If I don't have something to sort of kind of think on both ends, because I try to have no bias. So I want to imagine like the positive side of it, but then also be like, well, on the other hand, what if it's just this grand scheme to make us continue to go in, and buy something and then feel like, oh, we're getting so much in return. How gracious of you.
Well, then that's the thing. If no one questioned anything or moaned about and complained about anything, then we would just end up with mediocrity all the way
What would
around.
the internet's be for?
Yeah.
The internet wouldn't be for anything. Why the hell did Bill Gates even think to create something like this? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, I know he was sitting in his garage that day, and he was just like,
He wanted to look at naked Russian ladies.
I want to bitch about a lot of shit that no one can be in my vicinity to hear me bitch about.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with all these really upsetting, amazing things that I have to say? Yep,
Right,
it's true.
Got a couple of quick other news bits I want to go through, and then we'll talk about Windows 10 for a bit. Elite Dangerous 1.1 patch is coming in February. It's going to have community missions. Obviously, Elite Dangerous is online. It's hugely multiplayer and whatever, but there's not been that much of a reason so far to actually interact with anyone, whereas now they're putting in specific missions to do such things. Stuff like, there's a famine in a certain system and you have to team up with some other people and get food over there to save everyone. And whether you're successful or not in doing that, or whether everyone is successful in doing that, it alters the balance of power in those systems because you have 3 factions altogether. I think it is anyway. And it can actually change how the game is played as such, because depending on what you do and what missions you do alters your standings with the different factions. So, say you could have a hugely negative standing with faction A. One of these missions comes up and it's in one of their controlling systems. If you work to do that, or they get overthrown, you do something that helps them get overthrown in the controlling stakes by one of the other factions, then you would be able to safely travel and do stuff again through those systems, if that makes any sense at all.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, anything regarding community-based goals in general would be that'd be exciting for any game, even if it weren't like open world. Just imagine multiplayer games that had more of a concept of less go against or versus concepts and more of a, hey, well, there's something you're both after. You don't necessarily have to kill each other to go for the same achievement. Like that's... Yeah, but people will. I mean, you're right.
We still get some people who will.
Needless to say, yes.
Getting back to Dying Light for a sec, there was a be a zombie mode that I think I briefly touched on last week, where you could go into other people's games and be a zombie in that game to try and kill them. It could work really well. It was an actual, I believe the original idea was it was a paid extra. You had to buy a deluxe copy, a digital deluxe copy or whatever. It was like $10 more or whatever. They're now doing it for free. Everyone's getting it across the board, which is going to be good, I think, for everyone.
It's actually kind of nice, yeah. That's not bad.
I'm still scared that's just going to be Dead Island 2.0.
Just kind of the worst thing to ever happen. Who knows? We'll see.
I mean, there was something like that in Watch Dogs, wasn't there, where you could go into other people's games and control the police.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And that worked okay. But
it was.
They tried that and
okay.
it failed. The mobile thing where you can control the lights and things going off while people are actually playing never actually worked. But,
it was a good idea. It
is a good idea. I mean, again, a lot of that just also goes into the whole promise of every game having deadies and, we've got the servers for it. It'll work flawlessly. And who knows who actually has enough money to make that a possibility? Because if Destiny with Activision and Bungie, if they didn't have the money, then who has the money? I mean, that's Blizzard, Activision. Like, what are we doing? Anyway, that's but still, really, come on now.
Another quick one that I just want to mention is Grey Goo. Has been released. It's pretty decent. I'm a big real-time strategy fan. I spent a lot of time with my youth playing Age of Empires and whatever, and Command and Conquer, and it's not amazing, don't get me wrong, but it is solid. It is the solid new real-time strategy game that's very Command and Conquer-ish.
Wait, so give me the rundown. Is that just what I'm going off of? Is it comparable to that, or is there something?
Yeah, it's a pretty pretty standard RTS, to be honest. It's just that we don't really have any new ones being released nowadays, and it's just a solid game. So if you're an RTS fan and you want something new to play, then it's probably worth you picking up.
Okay.
there's 3 factions. You know, you fight, you build stuff and mine things and build units. It's pretty it's pretty
basics.
RTS.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But like I say, it is really solid. So I've been waiting for a decent new RTS for quite a while, and that's worth playing. So Windows 10.
Oh Lord,
it's looking good.
The elephant in the room. Yep. No, I would agree. Are you kidding me? It's exciting in general just to have a new platform, and hopefully one that's going to be their unified baby child that they've been working on for long enough to skip over version 9. Heyo.
Definitely. Yeah.
Windows and Microsoft, they do math. They do math.
Certainly do. But the big thing for me is that it's going to be free.
But the big thing for me is what you just said, but also that I'm primarily a Mac OS user, and software has been free for me for quite some time.
Yeah.
And with my, Vixen and I both having our MacBooks and me having my, our iMac here as well, it's this is old news to us. Like, free software is not something or what I guess people would call freemium, because, there was naturally, just like Microsoft has, their stipulation of, well, it's free for the first year. And a lot of that, though, is their sort of pay it forward initiative. They're wanting to move everyone who is considering sticking with, XP Service Pack 3 or Windows 7 to, hey, here is what Windows 10 is going to do for you. Here's why things are going to be better, and here's why we will no longer support you if you are later than this version. And that's true.
Look, that's fine with me. I mean, anyone who doesn't upgrade in the first year, well, it's tough luck. You've had plenty of time to do it.
That's you're absolutely right.
And I a couple of months though.
Well, and I think the biggest. Yes, I think the biggest problem is that within that year's time, it does give people to see that. So, I mean, think of it this way. Hell, even if that's a beta period, right, and there's a lot of issues, they could have 2 service pack releases in 12 months, no question, because Windows 10 is such an ambitious project that, as I said, that's kind of the ongoing joke, is that it was so big that basically it ate 9. It did. It is exactly what it did. Windows 8. 9, and then here comes 10, and then that's kind of the deal, is that you're looking at a project that's going to unify everything, similar to the initiative that Apple has with Mac OS and with Mavericks and Yosemite, and the way they're wanting to get closer progressively to, hey, the iPad, your iPhone, and every other product you have is unified. It's the same with Windows 10, and I think that's a really, really great notion. I mean, I couldn't be more excited, because I know that I'm going to be running it. My concern is compatibility. That is my biggest concern now, is compatibility. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about Vixen and I getting Fallout 3 again to start streaming that, because we've had a lot of people requesting it, and I know it has its problems on Windows 8.1, much less Windows 10 here in a couple of months. What the hell am I going to do? So
well, you can stream it from your Xbox.
That is true. That is true. But with the Xbox One, though, we're shit out of luck.
Yeah, I suppose
that puts us in a bad situation. I mean, we don't actually.
The whole streaming things from your Xbox over your home's Wi-Fi is something that puzzles me slightly, because there's a thing out in America, I don't know whether it's available over here, called the Shield.
Okay. The NVIDIA Shield. Yeah,
it's a tablet that you can stream your PC games onto, so you can play your PC games. But if you're at home, it's over your local Wi-Fi, so if you're at home, why aren't you playing on your PC?
Because your missus might want to watch Come Dine With Me or something.
Yeah, there is that.
Now, I get that with the consoles. I do get that with the consoles, like the Xbox One, because you're probably going to have that hooked up to your telly, obviously.
Right.
But if you've got your PC and it's got its own monitor, and you want to play a game on it, why aren't you doing that?
Yeah, but let's say I'm out on the deck with the barbecue. I've had a couple beer. I don't have the hand-eye coordination to be sitting on my executive exercise ball. Maybe I just want to sit out on the deck, have a beer, barbecue, shoot some zombies, or whatever.
Now, I can see one slight flaw with that, though, because if your hand-eye coordination is not good enough to play on a computer, then trying to control a PC game on a tablet isn't going to be the easiest thing in the world. It does have its own sort of controller thing built into it, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you got to remember
the Shield,
also,
yes. If we're talking the Shield specifically.
Most people probably have their gaming rig in the same room as their main TV. Most people in the living room. And if that is the case, the two collide. I have it myself. My missus doesn't want to hear me screaming over TeamSpeak when I'm when she wants to watch something on TV. So
when she's screaming at "Come Dine with Me."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you want to make that portable, then that suddenly is less of an issue. You can go in one room, whereas you got your PC gaming rig and it's sat there, big old chunk that you ain't going to be moving. But if suddenly that becomes portable, that's awesome.
Now with the Shield that works, but then it doesn't really work with the streaming your Xbox games.
Yeah, but even really, and even really just with the Shield or tablets in general. I mean, to be quite honest, I hate to say it, but tablet architecture is not anywhere near comparable. I don't care what they talk about when they say, "Oh yeah, we've produced." This new chip and it's revolutionized mobile gaming and it's done X, Y, and Z. And, Apple's always hyped with their iPad mobile processors. And frankly, I don't have a lot of respect for the growing era. I mean, with respect, I do say it is a growing era. And just a genre in general, mobile gaming is becoming progressively more advanced and exciting. But
you can play Hearthstone now on tablets.
Yeah, I mean that's really that is cool to be able to see things like that kind of branch out to mobile gaming and go free to play for a lot of those titles. But with something like the streaming, you're right. I mentioned it sort of earlier with a heavy heart because frankly I don't care. I have a PC rig that is plenty capable of handling OBS and any game I want to stream from simultaneously my Xbox One or my PC because I have a capture card. So I'm not worried about that. Plus I am an enthusiast for something like latency. I would refuse that feature altogether from Windows 10 because there is no way in hell that Microsoft could justify that there is very little input lag or latency over an MPL wireless connection. There is no way. There is just no way. And I will drop frames. People will see issues with general connection if you're out of range. I mean, there's a lot of kind of tentative things that you run into that are technical that they're going to say, oh, no, it'll work. Yeah, you said that about the Kinect. And then when, Phil Spencer came in? Phil Spencer. Right. He came in and he's like, oh, yeah, out with the Kinect. Fuck that thing. It's all about the games that don't use the Kinect now. So you see what I mean? You get that mixed agenda. So with Microsoft, I mean, you're right, Blade, to kind of say that the convenience of the options like Shield and stuff that innovate the idea of being able to do that, that's really great. But with the Xbox, I only see appeal in being able to do PC to Xbox One audience compatibility. I don't see much appeal for the streaming aspect of it.
It's a bit the same way with the fact that you can stream from your consoles now. It's a good option. It's nice to have there, but if you're going to be doing it seriously, then it's not really a viable option.
I would agree because unless your PC is taking some of the workload, what sense does it make? I mean, the Xbox One already struggles with 8 gigs of RAM to use 10% of its resources strictly for Kinect. And then when running Twitch, I mean, you can't even adjust settings that are basic on Twitch for output, let alone having any sort of overlay or customizable options. And not to mention the Kinect camera is some bullshit from like the 1960s. I don't understand. I mean, it's advanced technology, but the camera lens, they could have done a better job. I mean, I'm not complaining because I don't use it, but frankly, let's be serious. I've got the C920 from Logitech, 2 of them at that, and it's phenomenal. And I bought that for what is likely less than what it would cost to manufacture a Kinect. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
I don't know. The streaming thing, does anybody think that that's like a viable thing from the Xbox to the PC?
Like I said,
Windows
I
10?
think it could be useful for some people, but as a serious option, no.
I think it's phenomenal. I think it's a really good thing, personally. But then I think it depends on your living situation and a whole bunch of other things, Yeah,
there's a lot of those little kind of variables in there.
But, the fact of the matter is, we've probably got mobile phones that we don't use half the features and it's capable of doing so much more. It's horses for courses. It's nice to have it in there, but not everyone's going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
Let's
have a quick talk about the HoloLens and then we'll get on to our top 3, shall we? So Microsoft have announced their HoloLens, which, as you all know, there's a couple of virtual reality headsets that are in development at the minute that look as though they're going to be pretty cool. But this is a bit of a different take on it. It's not going to be an immersive thing like the VR headsets that are available now. It's going to interact with your space that you're in. It's going to completely map the 3D outlook. One of the things that they were saying is that you could build they showed like a Minecraft sort of thing where you could build like structures over your coffee table and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm not completely sold on this. Again, it's a nice idea. I don't know how much money they're putting into this, but it's probably going to be too much.
Well, they're jumping on the VR train because it's all the rage right now. So, I mean, realistically, Oculus Rift started a really bad trend of ridiculous VR spinoffs. I got to be the guy to come in and just put this in there because I think it's great. It's innovative that they have a team for research and development that's putting money towards this. But, I mean, VR has been a thing. It's not a new generation technology. So,
a bit like 3D films.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, with stereoscopic stuff, again, James Cameron reinvigorated that in 2009 by saying, well, I'm going to create a 4K technology and use this camera called the Red Dragon that is going to just absolutely obliterate your mind when you watch it in 3D. And it did. That movie was shot entirely with that 4K lens for IMAX 3D. So there wasn't a shot at all that wasn't done for 3D technology. But when you think about VR and HoloLens, I think it's great, but are you kidding me? You're trailing on the coattails of yet again Microsoft being last to the race. You're talking about a smartwatch coming out in 2015. Who gives a shit? I owned a Pebble before you guys really even had the concept ready for public release. And that's the problem, is that so many big companies are so late to the game. It's similar with the Apple Watch. Vixen and I, we are fanboys. Yes, we have our iPhone 6s, we have our Apple products, and I trust that brand. I have ever since I can remember.
And there's reason to.
Quality. Yeah, quality and customer reassurance, value. I've never had a problem. And see, Rev's shaking his head, but that's fine. Never before have I ever had a bad experience. Vixen's had multiple phones replaced without any hesitation. We've had no problem customer service-wide. 98% customer retention is great. I trust that. That makes me feel good about my money, right? So with something like that in mind, you look at HoloLens and you look at Oculus and you compare the two on a platter. Microsoft can't really say, well, it's different, so it's not the same, because that doesn't work in that instance. It's basically just another headset that is going to hit the scene late, and everyone's going to be like, okay, well, we're done with VR. Now we're on to 8K. Yeah. We're on to 8K displays. Let's talk about that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't see the hype, but I love the concept. I think it's kind of like you love the idea of it, but you don't love the idea of going out and buying it.
Just a quick question, though. How many people do you know actually take advantage of VR shit?
Zero.
I know nobody.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Everyone's just like looking at it. It's like, oh, they're late to the game. They're late to the game. But I have never once been walking through a store and been like, you know what? I think I would actually really like a VR headset. I just bought this. Just this game would be really better with a headache after an hour.
Yeah, more or less.
If until a company comes to me and says, I have a VR headset that will replace all your gaming experience with just this perfect one, then I will get excited. Until then, we're all just, looking at science fiction and being like, yeah, that's a pretty close approximation to what we actually kind of think we want.
Right.
You're also completely cutting yourself off from the outside world. If in theory one of these things actually fucking worked, but they never seem to. And this... with the technology we're talking about, I've seen the promotional videos. I've seen all this shit time and time before, and I'm so skeptical of what they say and what's actually going to be achieved. When they show you all these amazing fucking feats, like it's going to do this, it's going to be doing that, it's going to replace this. You won't need to use this technology anymore because you've got this. And in all fairness, from my experience, they're going to bring out a half-assed product that's probably not fully finished. That never. It's the fable of technology. It will come out.
To say that they did it. Yeah, to say that they did it.
It's like Oculus Rift. The first version of Oculus Rift that you could buy was about $300-400, and it was in 480p. It's in 1080 now. I'm pretty sure it is. But if you want that, then you have to buy it again. You don't get any upgrades or anything. So those people who are stuck on 480 must be kicking themselves now. Well, but then they've probably got the money to buy the new one anyway. If they've done
true.
That.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is it the one percenters? That's who it's catering to. And the Consumer Electronics Show. I was talking to Vixen about this the other day. My rant about it is that 90% of the time it's designed for the one percenters. There's very seldom do you see actual consumer electronics. You see like theorized products that when they hit the market, they can be affordable to those who actually want to go and spend that money. It's because it's available doesn't mean that it's a consumer electronics show. It's just, hey, we got the 8K TV and it's coming out first. Get ready to spend 15 grand. I mean, so with the HoloLens, I read all the articles, I watched all the videos, and it intrigued me because of, frankly, it was just the vernacular that they threw my way. I was like, well, this is a lot of different words. These are words. They sound good. This sounds really great. But again, it's just in theory, and a matter of how it's going to work. Who knows? Because, the concept for Surface, they trademarked that name for something that was initially going to be a tabletop computer. Then they took the same trademark and turned it into a line of tablets. So, I mean, you gotta wonder where they're going to go with something like this, or if it's ever going to turn into something that they want to this giant ambitious project. So I think Rev's right, 100%. That's right on.
It's going to be a wait and see on this one, definitely.
Yeah. But it's great. It's great that they're deciding to, as Muriel said, it's they're late to the game. But do any of us play that game? No.
Yeah, no.
Nobody here does. We know a total of 0 people who are choosing to go and enjoy themselves some VR-induced vomiting games. I'm good.
Right then, let's crack on with our top 3, shall we, guys? Top 3s this week is childhood favourites. Rev, do you want to start us off with yours, my friend?
Oh heck! Right, I'll shoot. I have to say this was particularly difficult because when you say childhood, I'm 36, so my gaming only really started probably about 1989, around that sort of time, and my ZX Spectrum Sinclair. Dude, there ain't shit on there that I would say was a childhood favourite. There were some bad games. So I think I'm going to have to go with games from the 90s up to 2000.
That's cool.
I'm treating that as my cut-off point. So really sort of my teens and probably touching on when I was about 20. Now, first of all, I'm going to shoot with Zelda. And I can't decide between Link's Awakening and Link to the Past. Because to be honest, Zelda for me is probably the only reason I'd ever pick up a Nintendo again, ever.
Game Boy we're talking about here.
Period, dude.
Just anything Nintendo.
Anything Nintendo, pretty much.
Yeah.
Zelda, maybe Metroid. But either way, Zelda, I just think that they're incredible. And for me, they've really been the reason that they've shifted consoles, probably, period, in the last 10 years, I guess. I don't know. So I'm torn between the two, but I've got to have Zelda in there, period, and probably as some sort of number 1 as well. Looking back, I've got to, dude. I think they're awesome. The other one, I'm going to probably shift over to PC now for the other two. And I could there's countless console games, and I've probably got a whole bunch of honourable mentions that I should throw in. But I've got to have Half-Life in there, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty much period. Because I think. It's the game that launched 1,000 mods. There's too much good stuff to go into with that. But I think gameplay wise, I think it was absolutely incredible. But I think also it's the legacy that it's given us is kind of awesome. It's led into so many other things, and we're still playing things that are based in and around Half-Life, and I think that's incredible. And my last, probably one that I dare say most of you guys won't have ever touched, but you'll probably have heard of, is Deus Ex. Released, I believe that was 99, 2000, around that sort of time. And
N64?
No.
You're on about PC.
Yeah. Because the original Deus Ex, I don't think ever made it to consoles. You had Deus Ex Human Revolution or whatever it was called, which I think was the second one. And that kind of sucked, I have to say. It just wasn't the same. The original one, it just fucked with dystopian concepts and sort of there were so many cool things about that game that I couldn't even wax lyrical about all of them. But from everything from like the inventory system, which just it had slots that you had to slot all of your stuff. You couldn't fit things in unless it was in all these squared slots, and you got to move things around to do it. That was cool. There was the whole like human augmentation. So as you played through the game, you upgraded your character. So you might go with prosthetic legs early on in the game, which means you can access things later on that you couldn't have accessed had you not done that. But if you've not upgraded, I don't know, like the eyes or something, you couldn't see certain things. So it entirely affected how your gameplay was as you developed through. And I think I actually tried playing this about 2-3 years ago, and I fucking hated it. I hate to say that because it's like all these games. I think Zelda I could probably still play and I would probably still love, and Half-Life arguably still sort of playing in various forms. But man, Deus Ex, I went back and it just wasn't the same. I think it would be like meeting Mr. T now compared to how you felt about him as a kid. It's just it wasn't great to go back. I was going to fire through some quick honourable mentions if that's okay, because I struggled with this shortlist, man. Doom, psyched. I just many hours gone. Final Fantasy VII, I've got to throw in there. I wouldn't even be vaguely interested in playing it again. And to be honest, that whole genre of games is dead to me. But Final Fantasy VII, so many hours spent. Quake, Street Fighter, Gran Turismo, I would never touch again, but god damn it, that was great. Mario Kart, everyone's got to have it, but it's cheesy, doesn't deserve to be my top 3. Star Fox, dude, love the shit out of that. And Counter Strike, man. So I've got there's a bunch of others, and I'm not even gonna. But yeah,
that's cool, man.
Gamer for life.
Yeah, Morel, I'm expecting some interesting ones here.
Yeah, me too, man.
Okay, before Murel says anything, I need to ask the Rev if that pillow has a cat face on it, or if I'm just seeing things.
Pillow?
It's his t-shirt, huh?
No, not the t-shirt, the pillow. Yeah, the direction you're looking.
Oh, no, I did have a cat. She's sat over there. In fact, there's two. There's two that...
No, I swear to God, that pillow has a face of a cat. It's like a throw on your couch or something. I don't know.
Is it that face?
No. I think he's talking about literally like the pattern behind you. Is that a pillow?
I can't tell if the... Maybe it's just the light.
To your left.
Just a cushion.
To your left.
I don't know. No.
I don't know. I'm on like beer 5 or something, so this might... Yeah, those pillows, it looked like a cat face.
I think it's like some sort of... I don't know. Griffins and shit?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a griffin by the looks of it, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, that settled my mind. That's all I wanted.
There it is. Deep done.
I had a really hard time with this list too. First of all, my family wasn't well off, so when I was a kid, my games were like, I got an N64 a year after the GameCube came out, so it's like I didn't have like the big titles or anything, but I think I managed to get them down to a few that kind of withstood the tests of time, if you will. Number 1 on my list is The Sims. I don't care what anybody says.
Vixen would be happy to hear you say that. Yeah, my girlfriend would be going nuts.
And I mean, I played it like a guy did. My houses never decorated. They had a pool though, in case I got sick of the sim, you know. But that was like the first game that I really felt like the expansion packs added anything to them. And as a kid, seeing Drew Carey show up at your party, you were like, yeah, this is relevant. So that was a really big thing for me, and this is a series I've been following religiously up to the Sims 4 debacle, and I'm still playing Sims 3. I think that was probably one of the games I should have mentioned that I played this week. But my next one, I would have to say, is Rise of Nations, for sure. I got Blade into this like 2 weeks ago, and he was terrible. RTS, it's like essentially Age of Empires, but
it's very fast-paced, though.
And it's like you just have a handful of tribes people at like the dawn of civilization, and you have to work through up to the information age and nuke each other. And it's a really interesting take on the RTS, and I'm really into deep games with an underlying message. So the whole complexity of it was really appealing to me, where I couldn't get into StarCraft. I couldn't get into Age of Empires or Age of Mythology. And then I'd have to say, number 3 was difficult. I was kind of torn between Pokemon and Zoo Tycoon because I was a loser as a kid. Pokemon was
Zoo Tycoon, there you go.
Our times change, Morel?
Yeah, no, now I'm super cool and all the women and like 5 Ferraris.
Oh, but, man, that's the life.
Nerds shall inherit the earth, my friend.
But I really liked Pokemon. It was really genre-defining as kind of like the kid games, I guess. And for anyone, and I'm sure that everyone here has at least looked at a Pokemon game.
Oh yeah, I love Pokemon.
It was like the Call of Duty of its time, essentially. Everyone played it, everyone had the cards, there was TV shows, it was cool, but I went with Zoo Tycoon because First of all, having a park full of dinosaurs was great. But second of all, turning your park into one giant dinosaur enclosure and then trapping your tourists and visitors in and seeing how long they'd last. I probably wasted weeks of my life just watching little visitors running away from velociraptors only to get eaten up by an Albertosaurus. It was great.
That's so
That
great.
statement's probably flagged you up with the NSA somewhere as soon as
Yeah,
this is
somewhere.
for public
Oh,
consumption.
yeah, they heard it. They're
You
like,
on the
what's
list?
going on?
That just reminded me of like Roller Coaster Tycoon making a
Roller Coaster
coaster that
Tycoon.
wasn't finished, so it'd
That
kill
was a big
people.
deal. That was a big deal. Roller Coaster Tycoon was pretty great back in the
Adrenaline
day.
junkies only. Ride of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yep, off into the abyss. No, I agree with that. I think that's awesome. Actually, Zoo Tycoon. I remember that. They had some crazy ads for that game. Wasn't there a remake that hit console at some point? Was
I
that
think
a
there
thing?
was, yeah.
There was a Zoo
pretty sure.
Tycoon 2. I don't know if it ever made it to console, but there's tons of spin-offs. I actually have one of them
Yeah.
in my Steam inventory. It was part of a Humble Bundle. But it's like, that was
Love
just so unheard of at the time. You know, Roller Coaster Tycoon was a big thing. But running your own zoo, that was just crazy.
Yeah, that's
Free.
pretty different.
There's a free game available on Origin at the minute. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Theme Hospital. If you remember
Dude,
that classic.
Yeah, I had to laugh at that. That's pretty crazy.
Oh, I'm so downloading that.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
think
had
I'll give it a
I had a
spin.
pretty good laugh at that.
It's a very old game. Did you have any honourable mentions, Morel? Or was that it?
I mean, there's things that have stuck with me through the years, but I don't think they'd ever really... Like, I could claim that they guided my gaming career, because, you know, our two new friends here, or my two new friends, may not know this, but I'm a big indie gamer now. I'm like the hipster of the game world. Blade doesn't even know what half the games I play are. I'll be like, hey,
not cheap.
I'm playing RimWorld today, and he's like, the hell's RimWorld, you know?
Sounds like
So-
the biggest fucking gay porno ever made.
Yeah, and that's generally how our conversations go. But I'd say
I'm
the
playing
only...
Wimworld right now, man.
Right
The
now.
only- oh God, wash my eyes out with bleach. I think the only other game that really left any lasting mark would be EVE Online, and it's a game that I tried for a very long time to get into, tried time and time again, and it finally stuck. And it's just such a crazy game. And that's all I really have to say about it. Just go play
stuff.
EVE.
Cool. Yeah. Bruiser.
Okay, let's see. So if I had to, I'm gonna actually not go in any particular order because that would just lead to a lot of, I don't even know where that conversation would go. I tried that with the top of 2014, and that was a fucking disaster. So I'm not gonna even get involved with what's gonna be number one versus number three. But I would say on the list, no less, top three. Undoubtedly, yes. Kind of going with what Rev said. Final Fantasy VII really was just a huge thing. The JRPG genre is, yes, it's undoubtedly dead. Are you kidding me? There's not even a question. I mean, that was really when Sony was at its all-time high, in my opinion, of the original, like the PS, the PlayStation, and then the PS1, which I loved. I thought that console was just absolutely adorable. Who didn't love to have a really small PlayStation? Because I was one of the people that had to have that. And then, of course, and that's, you're looking at like the JRPGs now, and like Final Fantasy 15, I won't lie, I probably will buy. That is going to be remarkable. Like, just from what I've seen, it looks like a game that is kind of going to be a must-have, at least for anybody who's vested time in the Final Fantasy universe. But Final Fantasy 7, I probably had replayed 5 or 6 times and put 60 hours into each one of those when I was younger. And that's where a lot of time went. Just, I'd be home after school wanting to play Final Fantasy because you got caught up in character advancement, and that was my first real experience with any form of strategy, frankly, during animated fight scenes. But so I'd say Final Fantasy is in there for sure, because that led me to honorable mentions, things like Chrono Trigger back then and stuff like that. And so those were great games. Then I would have to say, undoubtedly, kind of getting into the 64 realm, bringing us forward just a tad on where the games were as far as pop culture. The N64 was huge. I mean, I remember I had the initial release of it, and then I ended up having like the special edition, like purple one that was transparent. That I don't even remember what game it came with, and then it was released with that Rumble pack and the cartridge for the expansion. But Perfect Dark Perfect Dark was
Very good.
really just such a life suck for me. The amount of back then what I would refer to now as the futuristic but past tense LAN parties, I guess you could call them, because for my friends it wasn't about slumber at all during those get-togethers. It was basically all-nighters playing, 4-on-4 types of setups or switching between televisions to play against each other on Perfect Dark, with the occasional GoldenEye being in there because, of course, that's the obligatory game on the 64 for shooters. But Perfect Dark just really mastered it for me, what got me so hooked on FPS, because the controls were flawless for the way that the game was designed. I love that it had strafing. That was my first experience with being able to move from side to side and actually have a way to essentially juke or outshoot someone, which was really so different than, how even with Resident Evil, moving frame to frame without being able to actually turn or strafe was interesting. So Perfect Dark was a really different dynamic for shooters. And I mean, the laptop gun, are you kidding me? Like who the hell thought that up? It was genius. But so that really took a lot of my time. I'd have to say that's a no-brainer. And then finally, of course, jumping forward just a little bit more, I would undoubtedly have to say Halo CE. There is no doubt in my mind that Halo Combat Evolved was something that really it broke the mold for me. That was something that a generation of gamers between the ages of 18 and 25 now were brought into the sci-fi and FPS genre with that exact game. With that one game, it brought so many people into console gaming, and it shed a lot of light on being able to appreciate a great narrative, a really, really excellent protagonist, and then a story that kind of just eventually grew into this universe that got bigger than I think they ever expected it to. But are you kidding me? The amount of LAN parties that I hosted just for that game, and then eventually Halo 2 and 3 and so on, competitive tournaments. I mean, it turned the MLG franchise into what it is today. I mean, you really can't associate MLG with any other game unless you say, yeah, Halo's where it started, because it did. I mean, I remember the Halo 2 tournaments from MLG way back in the day, and I would go to LANs for them. I've been to 2v2 tournaments, free-for-alls. Like, those games really blew up the FPS franchise. But I'd have to say, yeah, those would be my three kind of in the top tier. And then as far as honorable mentions, yeah, I'd have things like, like I mentioned, GoldenEye, Chrono Trigger, various other JRPGs that I played here and there. Siphon Filter was a great one when I was younger. I loved that. I'd have to say Splinter Cell, that franchise, it's a dying age, but god damn it, Splinter Cell, I always had a really, really soft spot for the Batman of espionage. He was basically the Batman. Sam Fisher he was the fucking man. How did you not...
Again, a great protagonist, man.
Just so great. Sam Fisher was just superb, and that's something that
about him was he was like, you always get like the boot camp instructor who's like the grizzled vet. That was what made him cool. If he'd been like 20, he wouldn't have been half the man that he was in his 40s, being a badass motherfucker.
That's what I'm saying. And to me personally, he was more relatable and likable than solid as Snake could have ever been. And so that's the thing, is that I would say another honorable mention for me is going to have to be Metal Gear Solid. I had some serious hours put into Metal Gear Solid 2 and just any of the games on PS2. And how it grew, and then for PS3 with Metal Gear Solid 4, and now with Phantom Pain coming, I won't lie. Of course, I'm stoked on that, but a lot of my interest in it and the series has kind of faded just because it's been so far and so long.
It's so hard to follow now, dude.
It is. It's tough.
It's just ridiculous.
I mean, because Kojima's got this mind that's like, this guy, you feel like he's living in alternate realities, for Christ's sake. I don't know what he is doing with the story, or if there is one, or if it's just a, hey, here it is, play it, shoot stuff. It's tough to follow. But you're right. Unless you really, really are a hardcore fanboy, and there are a lot of them, it's difficult to follow. But yeah, Metal Gear Solid's up there. But as far as honorable mentions, I mean, yeah, like Rev said, people could almost spare you, because there's just a list of games you get to a point where you're like, oh man, there's just so many, because there's games you play that you want to include. But yeah, I'd have to say this would be my top three without giving too much thought to it.
Cool, Thank you. Right, so mine, as I said last week, I was a big Nintendo fanboy back in the day. to the extent that I got rid of my N64 when the GameCube came out. I got rid of my GameCube pretty quickly and got a Dreamcast. And then a bit later on, I went back and bought an N64 again. And as we were saying earlier, don't do it. You just ruin your memories. And
the good ones that you had.
The only N64 left in town at that time was a Pokemon one that had Pikachu on the front, which was
for Pokemon Snap, that was that one. I think that came with Pokemon Snap. Oh god.
Yeah, it was all right, but right. So all of my top 3 are actually N64 games. Starting at number 3 is Mario Kart. I don't care what you think, Brev.
I love it.
You said it was too cheesy to be in your top 3.
It is, but I mean the thing is, I'm 36, dude.
It's an addictive game. It's an addictive game.
It is. I spent a ton of time playing it. It's great. Everyone knows what it is. I don't need to talk about it too much. Number 2 was WCW versus NWO Revenge. I was a WWF. I always have been. I've always been a wrestling fan. I've always been a WWF fan. But the gameplay on WCW NWO,
flashing the gear.
It was just amazing. I would come home from school on a Friday afternoon, and I'd just be playing it constantly all weekend.
Oh my god, there it is.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Breaking it out.
And my number 1 would be Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina of Time, because it is the best game that's ever been made. Absolutely really fantastic.
Really. Did you watch the speedruns?
Yeah, I've seen some speedruns.
Oh no, but during the Awesome Games Done Quick, that was really, really impressive. The fact that he did the first hour and a half blindfolded. Did you watch the blindfolded run?
I didn't see the blindfolded.
Oh my god, dude! It's highlighted all over YouTube.
What the fuck is wrong with these people?
Wow.
Look, it was exceptional. He did the blindfolded run and was still able to execute the glitches just by the sound cues. Dude, it was the craziest shit. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. It was so mind-blowing watching this guy do this speed run, because the Ocarina of Time, he knew it so well. I'm telling you, he knew model selection and character selection for items when he was going to purchase things. He would know where everything was. And you would watch him, he would do all the movements with the strafes because he could time, and he basically had it laid out to what the distance of each movement was, forward, backward, everything. And he would listen for cues, the differences between the dirt and the grass and the water. It was nuts. You have got to watch that. If that's your number 1.
Even that is my number 1. I was never quite that into it.
Yeah, that is just so crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Anybody who's mastered it to that degree, I'm like, Jesus.
My honourable mentions, Counter-Strike has to be in there. Purely for the fact that I was so good at it. I was in a clan, and the rest of my clan were all American, and they had much better internet than me. And I was still on 56k dial-up when this thing came out, and my ping was 400 or 500. And when we was having back in those days,
the good old days.
Yeah, and when we was having our team practices or whatever, I was always finishing always or second. And I always used to screenshot it and send it out to them. You guys are on 50 fucking ping, and I'm on 400. And I'm still kicking your ass. GoldenEye's got to be in there. Pokemon on the Game Boy, amazing. The amount of hours, I don't even know how many hours I put into Pokemon Red, but it would scare me if I ever saw it. I think, but yeah, that'll do me. I think. Sorry.
Oh my god!
Did I collect them all? I did on those ones. I have to say, I've got Black and Pearl and whatever on my DS. Since they've added more Pokemon into it, I've never really got into it, to be honest.
It's just gotten too confusing. Honestly, that's the thing, is that it sucks when you see a generation grow up with a specific game or a genre, and you watch the legacy it's fading, but yet it's popular. But to you, it doesn't feel as popular because it's not relevant to you. But when I look at the Pokemon series, I'm like, Red, Blue, absolutely yes, 100%. I owned both. It didn't matter that they came out at the same time. I had both titles for reasons unknown. I just wanted them. And then it was the same with when Pokemon Yellow came out and the whole Pikachu Surf thing, and that was really interesting. But the Pokemon games, that was a grind. And if you didn't play it, I don't know what the fuck you were doing. I really don't.
I was too old for it.
Well, then there's that. Yeah, that's true.
I'm going to be completely honest. I have pre-ordered every Pokemon game that's ever come out, and my girlfriend is a big Pokemon player too, so we do the thing where we'll pre-order one for each of us.
One of each, yeah.
That way we can get all the Pokemon and we can play together, and it's like, oh yeah, Pokemans are still around.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, they are still relevant. Are you kidding me? Like, anywhere you go, I know that there's an age group that still plays it. It doesn't even matter. Hell, the game gets streamed. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Oh, does
Yeah,
it?
the game gets
They get a lot of
streamed on
viewers
Twitch.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, on Twitch it gets streamed. There are people that have the rig designed for the 3DS that stream it specifically.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because
Okay.
there's like a developer kit model of the 3DS that actually has like a micro HDMI output flashing the rep. But there are people that stream on Twitch. I've actually watched Pokemon get streamed, as well as like Monster Hunter, I think is one of the other ones that's popular on there. But
Yeah, that's
anyway.
a big game. Big game. Right, that wraps us up for this week, I think. If you just want to run through your Twitters and Twitches, whatever, Benj, Rev, we'll start with you.
The Reverend BJ, all one word. Twitch, Twitter, whatever. It's pretty much the same across the board. So
he made it easy on himself.
I did. Planning ahead, man.
That was brilliant.
You can follow me at Gaming with Murel. I don't post ever though, so don't bother. Or you can hit up my YouTube page. It's gamingw/Murel because I'm cool like that.
Bam. As
Cool.
for me, primarily I would say my number one source of communication now is basically been Twitch, which for whatever reason, quick heads up to anybody who is working quite possibly on the site, management, development, research, any of that, please integrate a better way to go about messaging and just make it more user friendly, for Christ's sake. Like it's the most perplexing thing on earth. You just want to send a message and not have it feel like it's a goddamn email going to and from users. Like it's so asinine. It feels a little bit over, it feels cumbersome when you try to send a message on there. But Twitch, and that's twitch.tv, and that's Bruiser, so Bruzur. I had to spell it in the most absurd way, but trust me, when I tried to match my gamer tag to it, I just wanted something clean, simple, short, because everybody goes for like the really good online handles these days. I had to try it. I had to get creative with it, so that's kind of why Bruiser there is the original, and I've gone by that handle for a pretty long time now. So as far as Twitter, I don't use it often. I need to get more involved, but it's actually going to be _techno, CRAT, technocrat, one word. But I certainly am going to try to get a little bit more of a presence on there because I realize Twitter is still all the rage right now.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm trying, but yes, Twitch has still been my main source of communication, I guess you could say. That's really where I'm at, streaming all the fun things.
Cool. And my Twitter and YouTube is both Blade Gaming, that's with a Y, and my Twitch is Blade666. Okay, so just a quick reminder, sign up for that mailing list on red.gamers.co.uk before the end of January. Do it.
Because free games. Because free. I mean, if you don't like free things,
there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, because this is you don't there's no issue. I mean, the incentive is sign up and equal free. That's pretty much a no-brainer. Yeah, I feel like that is a bit of a no-brainer. That's still awesome though, and I'm excited there's still time left because it feels like it's been like a month since we did the last one, but it really hasn't been that long, so there's still time for people to get in there.
No, we're doing well. Right, thank you all for joining me, guys, and thank you all for listening or watching, whatever platform you are doing it on. Until next time, we shall see you later.
Cheerio.
You're listening to the Red Hot Gamers Podcast at www.redhotgamers.co.uk.